Hi, everyone. Apologies for not checking in over the weekend, but I have read your responses to the pop music readings from last week and was really impressed. It was kind of a shame reading them, thinking this could be a discussion with everybody. But in any case, I thought what you said was very thoughtful and seemed to hit close to home, which is good because music's really important and it's a very personal thing. And if people don't, honestly, a few years ago I was talking about music with somebody. I realized I really don't trust people who don't have some kind of musical taste. So um, if you had a dog in the fight, as it were, because you were reading about A Star Is Born, you were thinking about rockism and poptimism and pop music, etc. Um, that's good because I think it makes it resonate. And you never really know what kind of movie is going to make people think. And Star is Born really seemed to, in a good way, both elate some people and really offend other people. Always a good mix. Because you know it's doing something right if it's getting this kind of reaction. So there was a lot of readings, and I don't know if you read all of them or if you had time to, whatever. But they all bring up interesting things. I was especially struck by the I think the last one listed on your syllabus under the optional ones. It says a few of these, and it's the last one listed, but it talked about um, consent, simple consent in that film, and how many times Ali, Lady Gaga, a lot of Lady Gaga's character is overrun, overwritten, over steamrolled essentially in terms of what she wants to happen, which is a real factor in that film. There's a lot of things about it that are very problematic, and I think that a lot of the readings, quite honestly, are maybe overly generous in terms of how even the film plays the rock pop divide. And without going through all of that, the main thing I would say is, and I say this as a reformed rockist, which is to say I was a little bit ashamed when I read the definition of it, read some more stuff about it, and realized that it was, well, in a lot of ways, my default position, in terms of both musical tastes and sort of ideas about authenticity and so on. So I'm trying. Um, but I think that one of the problems is, if you look at rockism as a way that, as something that privileges not only a certain kind of music, but a certain kind of path, authenticity, playing in clubs, knowing how to play your instruments, that kind of thing. Um, it's easy to dismiss a lot of people who are creatures of, and I mean that literally, creatures, things that are created in a studio or through in a studio on a sound set, you through video manipulation, costuming, etc. But also in a studio in terms of manipulation of sound, and essentially playing the soundboard, being a recording person, an engineer, recording engineer, producer, as an instrument unto itself, which actually has roots way back when. So it's not necessarily a new thing, but it's still something that seems to some people, I'm trying here, like it's kind of inauthentic. That said, one of the interesting things about the film to me is I think it's a film that really breaks into two parts in the sense in the beginning you have this portrait of this guy, this fading guy, and this young talent. But then when it turns towards her, when it turns towards her, it seems as if she not only makes a turn to a kind of pop we're all more familiar with, in terms of the spectacle and the artifice and so on, but it turns towards a particularly sort of deliberately shallow kind of pop. And a lot of articles make mention of the fact that the song is about guys' butts. The song that she gets on Saturday Night Live with, essentially, eventually, is about guys' butts, and this is sort of represented as being what she wants to do. A couple problems. Number one, in the first half of the film, you don't get any kind of idea that's what she's more interested in doing, and I think that's a kind of a failure of screenwriting, quite frankly. And the second half Ali is very, very different from the first half Ali and everything we know about her, which is a script thing, quite frankly. It's, you could say that the character's underwritten or the character's inconsistently written. Um, uh, the other thing is uh, it's a little bit ironic that they put particularly sort of shallow, almost deliberately, facile pop lyrics into the mouth of a character played by somebody who defies this split entirely, and that's Lady Gaga, who is not only um, very, very much a pop star, very, very much a current pop star in terms of the costuming, the spectacle, the persona, the endless social media kind of presence, but also is an amazing instrumentalist, an amazing songwriter, an amazing singer. So in every kind of test of musical legitimacy you'd want to give someone, she is off the charts. And yet, I think in terms of the film, it's not played in such a respectful way, which is ironic. Couple things. Let me see here. What else I want to mention? Um, yeah, I think that's kind of a rigging of the game, if you will, in the sense that one of the reasons that it doesn't necessarily hold true in the film or sort of ring true in the film is because Allie goes from somebody who's very talented who finds her way into somebody who is embracing um, not necessarily pop music, but kind of bad pop music. And there's lots of good pop music out there. And a lot of you spoke to that point in your writing, which was really gratifying. I was very impressed by that. So that's just a few of the things I want to say about the film. Obviously, y'all said a lot, and I was very taken with that. One thing I did not I thought was very interesting was you never exactly know what's going to resonate with people, and clearly the gender politics and the rock music criticism politics of this kind of made an impression on people. But gender sometimes did and sometimes didn't, and it seems very strange to me that so few of the readings mention that at the end of the film she declares herself Allie Maines. Maines, Allie Maines. So she recuperates the idea of, quite frankly, Jackson's possession of her at the end by doing that, which is not only deeply, deeply kind of regressive idea, but also something of a cliche. If you there are action movies from the '80s that everybody recognizes as being exercises in kind of recuperating the heroism of white men that do this. Specifically, two of the biggest and most successful and most well-known action movies of the '80s: The Abyss by James Cameron in 1989, and Die Hard, starring Bruce Willis, made by John McTiernan in 1986, 7, 8, 7, 8. Both of those have that same kind of device, and for that to show up in a film that's presumably about this woman finding her voice and moving on without um, the guy who discovered her, but who also is limiting to her, is kind of undercuts any um, sort of positive or feminist message of the film. So think about that and see those films if you want to. The Abyss from 1989 and Die Hard, because they're important. They're not necessarily their gender politics are awful, but Die Hard especially is a true kind of symphony of why women shouldn't leave the home and go to work. So it's a problematic thing, but it's illustrative of the times. Um, okay, and let me see. I want to throw some things on here for you. I'll send you some notes here, and I have some links for you from things for you to peruse. One, you guys read about Laura Nyro and Joni Mitchell, and that's fantastic. I urge you to explore their music, but just in case, just to cut to the chase, I put a couple links on here of two songs by Laura Nyro that I think are both really brilliant and extraordinarily evocative, but also just really unlike anything else I've ever heard. And she had that quality to a lot of her music. And if Joni Mitchell is sort of underappreciated and underknown these days, you could say that times 10 for Laura Nyro. The other thing I threw out there, just in terms of maybe a remedy for all of the Stars Born talk, is the title of a film from 4 years ago that's very, very entertaining. It's very stupid. It's very entertaining. It's called Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. It's an Andy Samberg Lonely Island thing. It's about a Justin Bieber kind of pop star who achieves extraordinary fame, and then it all falls apart. So it's not modeled on A Star Is Born, thank God. I'm tired of versions of this film, but it's really funny, and and I think is a little bit of an anecdote to the self seriousness of the version of the film that you watched. The other thing I wanted to mention was, oh yeah, some housekeeping stuff. I sent you two of Roxane Gay's chapters, which are part of the reading for this week. I didn't know if you'd had access to your books. So look at those, please, and of course, respond in writing if you want. Do what you can. That's the main thing. If you got time to read them, read them. You got time to watch the episode one, season one of The Handmaid's Tale. That's great too. Write, read them, watch them, write them if you can. Otherwise, job one, of course, is taking care of yourself. Next week is actually scheduled as a checkup, a catch up. So we can talk about paper strategies then, because once we get through this week, really that's all that's facing you is completing those papers and turning them in. I'll have lots to say about that. So that's it. And yeah, thanks for your very, very thoughtful responses. And I'd love to read more of them, but you got bigger fish to fry. So do what you can, do what you want. And I will talk to you soon. Might be back in touch tomorrow to ask if we could do a little Zoom experiment during class time Wednesday. So we've been doing asynchronous, but it might be good to know whether we can do synchronous communication if we wanna. Okay. So anyway, talk to you soon. Be well. Bye.